Live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening. You are joining the national news telecast of the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. With the latest from home and across borders, I'm Vibodha Vijay Bandara.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Sharifa Tahir. Let's take a look at the headlines.
The National Housing Programme of 31,218 houses commences at Chavakacheri. No room again for racism in any part of the country, stresses the President. Protests at several places demanding educational reforms. It's been emphasized that educational reforms are necessary for national progress. 3 suspects served with red notices abroad brought back to the island. Price of imported milk powder reduced. The cup of milk tea also reduced by 10 rupees. UNFAO requests world community to assist in rebuilding livelihoods in Sri Lanka devastated due to disasters. The IMF team in the island to assist Ditwa disaster losses. United Nations Secretary General requests all parties to maintain maximum restraint in the face of Iran situation. And now for those stories and other news items in detail, we are starting off with local news. President Kumar Dissanayake says that there is no room whatsoever for racism again anywhere in the country.
Stressing that steps will be taken to solve the housing problem of all people displaced due to the war, the President made this observation joining the inauguration of National Housing Programme 2026 themed A Place of Our Own, A Beautiful Life at Chavakacheri area today. The inaugural function of the National Housing Programme 2026 themed A Place of Our Own, A Beautiful Life is held today under the leadership of President Kumar Dissanayake with the objective of constructing 31,218 houses island-wide, including 2,500 houses for relocation of families in the north and east of the country. The function was held at Misale Veerasinghe Primary School Playgrounds, Chavakacheri. The President observed that the program to uplift the people economically developing Jaffna is already being implemented. Awarding of checks of 300,000 rupees each in the first stage of the program to provide 2 million rupees each to construct houses for 800 families in Jaffna district displaced due to the war was also conducted on this occasion. President Kumar Dissanayake said that a large number of houses were damaged during the war. However, despite the prolonged time frame, those houses have not been fully rebuilt. The people living in Jaffna district were displaced during the war. He said that they remain displaced even after the war. It is not fair for families to live for a long time without a home or a place of their own. Therefore, the government will resolve the housing problems of all those displaced by the war during its term. The people in these areas contributed to bringing this government to power with great hope and expectation. For a long time, what happened in these provinces was the emergence of views opposed to and in disagreement with the existing government. That is not wrong. If a government nurtures racism, if a government steals people's property, if a government thinks only about itself and not about the general public, it is inevitable that the people and the government will grow apart. Those are governments against the people, governments that create conflict, governments built only for their own families. But today, for the first time in Sri Lanka, government of the common people of this country has been formed. During elections, especially among the people in the north, there may have been some hesitation, uncertainty and doubt about us. For this government allocated the largest shares of funds in this year's budget. The government must create proper sources of income. Agriculture, the coconut industry, fisheries and small-scale industries in particular have become the main livelihoods of people in these areas. The aim of the government is to provide the necessary support to all these sectors and raise people's living standards to a high level. This government will work for that purpose. A country where everyone lives together in brotherhood and harmony is the requirement. The country needs a good economy and a life filled with enjoyment and happiness. The government has planned to build a large sports stadium in Jaffna. Laying of the foundation for a house symbolically commencing the National Housing Programme was also done, led by President Kumar Dissanayake. Protests were carried out in some areas against the postponement of new education module system and demanding to re-implementation of them. The Parents' Unity has organized the protest held in front of the Rupavahini Ministry of Education. A group of parents engaged in a protest at Madirigiriya town this afternoon demanding to implement new educational reforms. They said that the education reforms introduced by the government are positive. Another protest in this connection was held at the Malimbada junction in Mathura this evening. The protesters demanded the government to practice new education system better suited for the future instead of the outdated system.
And now, in the meantime, the National Movement for Educational Reforms stresses that education reforms are essential to move forward as a country. According to them, opportunists representing selfish motives create unnecessary bugbear regarding educational reforms. The movement, during a media briefing held today, stated that the preliminary step in order to enlighten the public to point out the necessity of educational reforms will commence tomorrow from Kandy.
In the context of where the new syllabus for grade 1 and grade 6 in the name of academic educational reforms to be launched in 2026, but in the position of launching grade 1 but deferring the grade 6 to 2027, we as the new movement call the National Movement for Educational Reforms launching and sharing our insights with you. So with that purview, we as a movement here now document that yes, the grade 1 will be launched as it is planned in 2026 and the grade 6 will be launched in 2027, with giving the benefit to the doubt coming from the people. We see people having doubt, are we having resources to launch grade 6? But unfortunately, we see not any other time in our history we have seen such an uncultured political system or politicians, those who played with the education of these people. So with that purview, we as a movement here now document that yes, the grade 1 will be launched as it is planned in 2026 and the grade 6 will be launched in 2027, with giving the benefit to the doubt coming from the people. We see people having doubt, are we having resources to launch grade 6? And all those questions, yes, we think that in the purview of the people and giving the benefit for their questions, now we think that we will launch that from 2027, taking the time to boost the confidence of all of you.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuri says that education was identified as a key sector requiring transformative change when the government assumed office, noting that resistance from a minority was possible during such reforms. However, she stressed that the new education reforms would be implemented despite objections posed by minority groups. She made these remarks in an awareness program held in the Chilla Education Zone today. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuri said that there was no doubt regarding the necessity and importance of education reforms, noting that it had been a topic of discussion since around 2012. She remarked that while watching recent televised debates, the need for those reforms became even more apparent. She further mentioned that when listening to those opposing the reforms, it was felt that if they had received such an education themselves, they would not be making such statements. The Prime Minister emphasized that the government was ready for any debate regarding education and clarified that they were not rejecting dialogue. She asserted that while dialogue and the exchange of ideas were important, they firmly rejected the distortion of facts. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuri stated that they were speaking out against the spreading of confusing and false ideas about the reforms, such as actions could cause significant harm. She explained that when trying to implement such a beneficial and vital initiative in the current environment, the entire process could be affected. Therefore, the government had decided to postpone the implementation for grade 6 by 1 year. She added that they believed the resulting dialogue would be extremely important in strengthening the entire process. She noted that attempts to bring about such a significant and systematic transformation would inevitably face opposition. She affirmed that the government would move forward by understanding these challenges, making necessary adjustments, and accepting constructive criticism. She stressed that this task did not belong solely to the ministry, the minister, or the government, but was something that belonged to the entire country.
Now, importers of powdered milk have decided to reduce the price of imported powdered milk by 125 rupees per kilogram from today. The price of a 400-gram powdered milk packet will be reduced by 50 rupees. The concerned agreement in this regard has been reached at a meeting held recently at the Ministry of Trade, Commerce, Food and Security and Cooperative Development with importers of powdered milk. Chairman of the Consumer Affairs Authority, Hemant Samarakun, also joined the discussion held under the leadership of Minister Vasanta Samarasinghe. This agreement has been reached as per request made by the Minister to the importers with the objective of delivering the benefit to the consumers, taking into consideration the reduction in the price of powdered milk in the world market. Accordingly, the Association of all Ceylon restaurant and cafeteria owners has decided to reduce the price of a cup of milk tea by 10 rupees from today. President of the association, Harsha Rukshan, stated that with the step taken to reduce the price of imported powdered milk, it has been decided to reduce the price of a cup of tea by 10 rupees from today.
The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations is appealing to the international community for $16.5 million in aid to rebuild the livelihoods of Sri Lanka's agricultural and food sectors, which were devastated by Cyclone Ditwa. This was detailed in a statement issued yesterday by the FAO headquarters in Rome.
According to FAO estimates, $16.5 million in international assistance is required to restore the food security and livelihoods of farming, livestock and fishing communities affected by Cyclone Ditwa. As one of the world's worst climate disasters to hit Sri Lanka in decades, Cyclone Ditwa impacted all 25 districts, disrupting the lives of over 2.2 million people. At a time when vulnerability has increased due to prolonged economic pressures, providing food security, agricultural and nutritional support to over 1.1 million people has become an urgent necessity. The cyclone, which struck at the beginning of 2025-2026 Maha season, affected more than 227,000 farming families and submerged over 129,000 hectares of agricultural land. Recultivation has also been delayed due to extensive damage to irrigation systems. The FAO concludes that without immediate assistance amid shortages of seeds and fertilizers and obstacles to using machinery, the country could face irreversible production losses. Consequently, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has called upon the international community to urgently provide and support the $16.5 million aid package for Sri Lanka. Now, the International Monetary Fund team will visit Sri Lanka later this month to assess the economic impact of Cyclone Ditwa and to revive discussions on the country's IMF-backed reform program. The IMF mission will be in Sri Lanka from January 22nd till the 28th, engaging with the government officials and key stakeholders to evaluate damage to infrastructure, livelihoods and overall economic stability. IMF Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Ivan Papageorgiou, said the findings would feed into further talks on the IMF-supported program, including the possible resumption of the extended fund facility. Sri Lanka was able to complete the fifth review of the program after fiscal targets were affected by an expanded budget. The IMF has preliminarily estimated cyclone-related losses at 0.2% of the GDP. The visit also signals the fund's continued support for Sri Lanka's recovery, resilience and long-term economic stability.
Two suspected criminals on red notice and another female suspect were brought to Sri Lanka from the UAE this morning. Police media spokesman ASP F.U. Woodler stated that 95 more suspects are to be warranted with red notices.
The three suspects who have been charged with committing organised crimes and financial frauds in abroad were taken into CID custody. The two male suspects are a 30-year-old resident in Kandana and a 52-year-old resident in Uragas Manhandia. The female suspect has been identified as a 56-year-old resident in Mount Lavinia. The suspect of Kandana has been handed over to the Kalani division, while the Uragas Manhandia suspect has been sent to LPT Crime Division for further investigations. The female suspect of Mount Lavinia area is now being interrogated by the CID Colombo Division. She has also been sentenced and fined by the Colombo High Court earlier. Police media spokesman ASP F.U. Woodler said that they had successfully extradited 10 suspects to Sri Lanka through red notices. He mentioned that in 2025 they were able to bring back 11 more suspects. Accordingly, during the years 2024 and 2025, a total of 21 suspects were extradited to Sri Lanka under extradition laws. He further noted that they have been initiating steps to issue 95 red notices to date. As a result of these efforts, they were able to bring 2 male suspects and 1 female suspect back to Sri Lanka this morning via Bandaranaike International Airport. He also highlighted the swift cooperation received from the Abu Dhabi Interpol, the Dubai Police and relevant embassies, which facilitated the rapid extradition of these 3 suspects to Sri Lanka.
President Anura Kumara Dissanayake states that parents in the north who once lived in fear for their children due to the war are now forced to live in fear for them due to the drug menace.
Emphasizing that the national movement to eradicate the illicit drug scourge will be carried forward strongly, the President called upon the public to come forward and defeat this threat by acting as a massive national security shield. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake made these remarks today while participating in the Northern Provincial Programme of the Ratama Ekata National Ambition to eliminate illicit drugs. The event was held at the Jaffna Technical College grounds. Under the patronage of the President, awards were presented to officers of the Tri-Forces and the police in the Northern Province who contributed actively to drug raids. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake stated that the immense wealth and power generated by the drug trade has successfully infiltrated the state machinery. He noted that individuals already in custody are continuing to run these businesses from within prisons. While the police are performing their duties efficiently, he acknowledged that some officers, along with weak officials in the Customs Department, the Department of Motor Traffic and Immigration, have fallen prey to this trade. Furthermore, he revealed that officials in key positions within the public service have been identified and arrested for their involvement. The President questioned where the country was headed and emphasized that this business must be defeated. He attributed the growth of the drug trade primarily to the political protection it enjoyed in the past, noting that in some provinces, certain politicians were even identified by drug labels. The President assured the public that a new government has been formed that will no longer provide political asylum to drug traffickers. He exposed that historically, heads of enforcement agencies had collaborated with criminals, even manipulating evidence to release those arrested. He warned officials to either cease these dealings or leave their posts, as his political authority would lead the charge to eradicate armed criminal gangs and drug traffickers without succumbing to threats or intimidation. The President firmly stated that he would not allow racism to raise its head in the country again. Reflecting on decades of conflict, he noted that suspicion, hatred and anger had only resulted in war and the losses of children, both Tamil and Sinhalese, leaving behind devastated families. He emphasized the need to build a nation based on national unity, brotherhood and compassion. Small pockets of racism are still being stirred up in various places. Some conflicts are being centered around sacred sites. He criticized those who visit religious sites not for spiritual purposes but to incite hatred and protest over land issues under the guise of racism. Intelligence reports suggest that many of these protesting do not even own land in the areas they are contesting. He categorized these agitators as groups who have lost their power and are now trying to use racism to regain influence. He vowed to foster a society that looks at others with love rather than hatred. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake further stated that, highlighting a historic shift in governance, he remarked that in the past the people in the north felt the government was a Sinhalese government from the south, while those in the south felt the government did not belong to them. He categorized previous administrations as being built for the benefit of a few limited families, friends and relatives. He stated that for the first time a true people's government has been established, one that belongs to the citizens of the north, south, east alike. He assured that this administration is respected and beloved by the Sinhalese, Tamil and Muslim citizens and pledged to build a country where justice and the law are upheld for everyone.
හැමදාම ආණ්ඩුවට එහි මොකද්ද යාපනයේ තිබුණු මතය දකුණේ තියෙනවා සිංහල ආණ්ඩුවක් උතුරේ අපි දෙමළ ආණ්ඩුවක් ඕන කියලා කිව්වා දකුණේ තිබුණු ආණ්ඩුව උතුරේ ජනතාවට දැනුනේ නැහැ තමන්ගේ ආණ්ඩුවක් කියලා හැබැයි මම ඔබට එකක් කියන්නම් දකුණේ තිබුණු ආණ්ඩුව දකුණේ ජනතාවට දැනුනේ නැහැ තමන්ගේ ආණ්ඩුවක් කියලා උතුරට විතරක් නෙවෙයි දකුණටත් ඒ ආණ්ඩු නෙවෙයි ඉතා සීමිත පෞල් කීපයක වමනා වෙනුම් හදපු ආණ්ඩු තමන්ගේ මිතුරන් වෙනුම් හදපු ආණ්ඩු තමන්ගේ ඥාතීන් වෙනුම් හදපු ආණ්ඩු තමයි ලංකා ඉතිහාසය හැදුණු ආණ්ඩු ඔබ ලංකාවේ පළමු වතාවට ජනතාවගේ ආණ්ඩුවක් හැදලා තිබෙනවා. අද යාපනයේ ජීවත් වෙන ඔබ විශ්වාස කරනක ඔබේ ආණ්ඩුවක් කියලා. නිසා පළමු වතාවට උතුර දකුණ නැගෙනහිර සිංහල දෙමළ මුස්ලිම් සියලු දෙනාගේ ගෞරවයට ආදරයට භාජන වූ ආණ්ඩුවක් හැදලා තියෙනවා. ඒක තමයි වැදගත්ම හැරවුම. ඒ පදනම මත අපි මේ රට ගොඩනගනවා. හැම කෙනාටම සාධාරණව නීතිය ඉටු වෙන රටක් ගොඩනගමින් තිබෙනවා.
This event was attended by members of the Mahasangha and clergy of other religious faiths, ministers, members of parliament and heads of security forces.
The 12th Andrestenin International Press Photo Contest has officially opened in Moscow, with entries now being accepted from professional photographers around the world. Launched annually on the 22nd of December to mark the birthday of late photojournalist Andres Tenin, the competition honours his legacy after he was killed near Donetsk in 2014. This year's contest features 6 categories, including Top News, Sports, My Planet Portrait, A Hero of Our Time, Top View, and a new category titled Energy of Life. Photographers aged 18 to 33 can apply for most categories, while Energy of Life is open to participants aged 34 and above. Submissions can be made via the official website in Russian and English until 28th of February. Winners will share prize money, with the Grand Prix carrying a top award of 700,000 rubles. The award ceremony is expected to be held in Moscow later in 2026.
The Colombo High Court ordered today to take up for the hearing the further examination of evidence in the case against former Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake and Director of Perpetual Treasuries Company Arjun Aloysius on the 6th of February. The case has been filed by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. Ravi Karunanayake has been alleged of committing an offence under the Bribery Act by residing in a house owned by Walter and Rowe Associates Private Limited when he was the Finance Minister during the period of 12th February to 13 September 2016. The second defendant of the concerned case, Arjun Aloysius, has been a director of the above-mentioned company at the same time. Meanwhile, the Bribery Commission informed the Colombo Magistrates Court today that indictments have been filed in the High Court against former Minister Keheli Rambukwella, his son Ramita Rambukwella and members of the family. Keheli Rambukwella has been alleged of receiving salaries and allowances entitled to them by including the names of them in his private staff when he was officiating as a Minister of Mass Media, Health and Environment. The Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption has conducted the investigation against him and others, stating that they have committed an offence under the Anti-Money Laundering Act. The Colombo Magistrates Court ordered today to call for hearing the complaint filed against the former Security Chief Neville Wanyarachi of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa on the 9th of June. They were produced before the courts on suspicion of illegally earning assets of more than 28 million rupees.
President Anura Kumara Dissanayake visited Nagadeepa Rajamahaviharaya and Jaffna Sri Nagavihara International Buddhist Centre and received the blessings of the Mahasangha while participating in several programs in the north today. The President, who visited Nagadeepa Rajamahaviharaya in the noon today, also met the chief incumbent of the Viharaya, Venerable Navadagala Padmakiti Thera, and inquired about his well-being. The Thera blessed the President on this occasion, and later the President had a friendly chat with the people who were present there. Minister Ramalingam Chandrasekhar and a large gathering was also present on this occasion. Later, after visiting Jaffna, Sri Nagavihara International Buddhist Centre also met and received the blessings of the Chief Sanghanayaka of the North Sri Lanka, Chief Incumbent Shastravedi Venerable Megaha Chandre Sirivimala Thera.
The special meeting took place between the Pakistan High Commissioner Major General Fahimul Aziz and Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayadissa this morning. They raised concerns over the possibility of further enhancing close relations between the two countries. The meeting took place at the Ministry of Health and Mass Media. They focused attention on long-term relations in social, economic and sports sectors. Another significant matter in this discussion was further promoting matters related to health sector and the pharmaceutical supply system in Sri Lanka. They looked into possibility of starting manufacture of medicines, cosmetics industries in collaboration with the Pakistani government and Ministries of Industries and Foreign Affairs. The Pakistani High Commissioner especially commended the free health service implemented in Sri Lanka. He stressed that Pakistan government and the people continuously extend their support to Sri Lanka.
The funeral of veteran singer and musician Raju Bandara, who has contributed a number of significant songs to the music field, will be held at the Barala General Cemetery at 6 p.m. tomorrow. He was 65 years at the time of demise. Raju Bandara, who was a member of a family related to music field, was born in Kagala area. He entered the music sector in the 80s and became very popular as a singer in the 90s. Ma Adare Mululuvatat Vada, Ran Sinu Nada De, Rosamal Kumari are among the most hit numbers in his name. Not only as a singer but also he was very popular as a musician. In several occasions he contributed to arts as a teledrama actor. Raju Bandara passed away yesterday at his residence in Ragama after suffering from an illness for some time. He is the brother of veteran guitarist Mahinda Bandara. His remains are now lying at Jayaratna Funeral Parlour in Narahempita Road, Barala.
A tourist program with a novel experience for foreign tourists by the name Bus Run, with all facilities inside a luxury bus for the first time in the island in Dambulla yesterday. The bus has been designed with the contribution from a businessman of Palavehera area, Dambulla. It has been engaged in tourism with approval of the Provincial Tourism Department. The tourists will be able to have a novel experience inside the bus, having food and beverages inside while travelling for a number of kilometers around Dambulla, Inamalwa, Kimbissa, Sigiriya, Palvehera and Pidurangal areas with all the facilities of a tourist hotel. During the journey, the tourists will be able to travel long distances around tanks, anicuts and historical places. According to the Central Provincial Tourism Department, this new tourist destination has been designed including various activities. Governor of the Central Province, Professor S.B.S. Abekun, Deputy Minister of Buddha Sasana and Religious Affairs, Gamagedara Disanayaka, Matale District Parliamentarian Sunil Bianwala and a large number of others joined the occasion.
The Colombo Stock Exchange ended today's trading positively. The all-share price index closed at 23,731.60 after rising by 22.90 points, which represents a 0.10% change. The S&P SL20 index closed at 6,560.08, up by 18.11 points and 0.28%. Total market capitalization at the close of trading stood at 8.467 trillion rupees. Market turnover for the day amounted to 4.73 billion rupees, with 132.55 million shares traded.
Now in your weather update for the day, mainly dry weather is expected to prevail across most of the parts of the island. However, there is a possibility of ground frost in some areas of the Nuwara district during the early hours of the morning. Misty conditions are also likely in parts of the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern, north central and Uva provinces, as well as in the Gaul and Matara districts. During the early morning hours, And now for news overseas. In light of the current situation in Iran, the UN Secretary General is calling on all parties to exercise maximum restraint.
At the request of the United States, UN Security Council also convened an emergency meeting yesterday to discuss the unrest in Iran. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres states that there is an opportunity to better resolve all issues, including Iran's nuclear concerns and ongoing protests, through diplomatic negotiations and dialogue. Regarding the deadly protests in Iran, he has urged all parties to act with maximum restraint. The Secretary General has also advised all parties to avoid actions that could lead to loss of life or spark widespread regional violence.
Prima Stella. අපි හැමෝම කැමති.
We're not moving on to sports news now. HWMS Pinto, representing the Sri Lanka Army team, won the first stage of Lanka Ride 2026 cycle tour.
The race commenced in the morning today near the Lake House premises in Colombo. Lanka Ride 2026 cycle tour, organised by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, will be held 3 days. It commenced in the morning today, led by Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports Sunil Kumar Gamage, Minister of Transport and Highways Bimal Ratnayaka and Deputy Minister of Sports Sugat Tilakaratna. The first stage of the tour, which started in Colombo with the participation of 135 competitors of 27 teams, ended at Gannorua in Kandy in the afternoon today. 5 winners of the today's race were offered prizes. Deshan Kaminda, representing Jayala Flash team, became third. The second position was won by Adius Pereira. HWMS Pinto, finishing the race in 2 hours, 52 minutes and 41 seconds, was the winner. All the cyclists represented Sri Lanka Army team. The second day of Lanka Ride 2026 cycle tour will commence at 9 AM tomorrow from Agriculture Research Centre, Gannorua. That stage of the tour will end at the public grounds Anuradhapura. The tour will come to an end on the 18th of this month with the tour from Anuradhapura to Independence Square, Colombo. The overall distance of the tour is 440 kilometers. And with that, we end today's national news. Selika signing off. I'm Vibhudu Vijay Bandar alongside Sharifa Tahir. Good night.
Good night.